welcome to Pistahan 28 Sports Pavilion. Our second panel today is full of wonderful Filipinos who love basketball, who love Filipino basketball. I'm Carolyn Sedeco, Sports Pavilion lead, and I'm here to just facilitate this wonderful talk. If we can start with introductions, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Siege Tantenko here in Manila. I'm the host and creator of Go Hard Girls, which is a podcast that creates audio documentaries about amazing yet underrated Filipino athletes, and we also discuss gender equality in sports. I used to be a courtside reporter, and right now I'm also the social media and PR manager for the Meralco Vaults in the PBA.
Thank you for having me. My name is Constancio Realiza Arnaldo Jr. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Interdisciplinary Gender and Ethnic Studies in the program of Asian and Asian American Studies at the University of Las Vegas, AKA Lost Wages. So I teach classes in ethnic studies, gender and sexuality studies, and interdisciplinary studies. I love basketball. I love watching it. Although the Golden State Warriors didn't make it to the finals, that's okay. And so thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Reno Ursal. I am a girls varsity high school coach from Mountain House High School in California. I'm also a writer, a young adult novel that's out. And I run a travel ball club out in California called the Wolverines, tribute to my alma mater, University of Michigan. And I'm here as give a stateside perspective on the Filipino American experience in basketball. So thank you for having me.
Everyone, thanks. I'm Rafe Bartholomew. I am the author of a book called Pacific Rims about Philippine basketball, and which led to me hosting a couple of basketball docuseries in the Philippines about basketball, of course. One on Nat Geo called Pinoy Hoops, and a second on CNN Philippines called Hoop Nation. I get the two names confused because it was the same show on different networks, basically. But it's an honor to be here. So thank you all, and I'm so happy to be with everyone here.
Great. Thank you, everyone. All right, we're going to start with our first question. Our first question, we're going to start with Siege. And this question is for all of you, of course. How is Filipino basketball around the world different now than in 2019 before the pandemic? What changes have you seen?
Well, I'm speaking from the perspective of here in Metro Manila. And I feel like here in the Philippines, we're right now at a moment of change. There's honestly still so much we need to do in terms of attaining, true equality for our female basketball players in a society, honestly, where women's basketball has been underfunded, underinvested in, undercovered, underrepresented. We're still struggling because the pandemic has meant further cutting of budgets, even less opportunities to play, even less coverage for women's basketball. But there are two things that give me hope. So the first thing is that the pandemic has forced leagues and institutions to get creative. And this provides us with a roadmap of things we can do for women if we could only take the chance. And the second thing is that in recent years, with the accessibility of digital resources, more and more young Filipinos are becoming educated and empowered to speak out about gender equality and gender issues in sports. I remember 5 years ago when I started out as a reporter, people would always say things like, just be happy that there's coverage for women's basketball, even if it's sexualized, even if it's, articles about their looks, not their skills. Just be happy because there's something. Or, just be happy that there's one woman on the broadcast panel. At least it's not a complete sausage fest, But I see now that this younger generation is not going to take that. Recently, there was a popular sports blog in the Philippines that posted something sexist, and these younger girls were just going after him and, trying to have that discourse. And, I think we're finally at the tipping point where we can say, ayaw na namin sa tira-tira, deserve na natin ng ulam. And that is something that I'm very happy to see.
Thank you, Siege. Yeah. Gutom na ako. Yeah, I'm always hungry for that. Yes. I'm going to direct that same question to Constancio. Can you answer that, please, in the work that you do and that you have done, and maybe in the context of your work at the university?
Sure. So the question was, how has Filipina basketball, I guess in the U.S. context, Filipino-American basketball changed with the onset of the pandemic? I think part of it is because COVID has forced us all to be indoors, to be isolating. Like, in Vegas, they took down the basketball hoops, so people couldn't even play. And so I think folks are not able to play basketball outdoors or even indoors. And so it's, forced people to just kind of chill and rest until they open it up. So in October, like last October, I was supposed to go to this weekend-long tournament in Delano, California, called Philippine Weekend, where it's like one of the longest basketball tournaments for the Filipino community to play in. And I was talking to one of the organizers, and he said that they couldn't do it because of COVID. And so I think that was a blow to the community, because this has been going on since, like, I want to say the mid 70s. And so, COVID has really affected folks' ability to play and to engage in the kind of pleasure that basketball affords many of us. And so in my work, like, because of COVID-19 and because of the way that it's shaped how people have access to these spaces, I think maybe more people are becoming more fans of like the NBA or maybe college, and it's probably increased in terms of the viewership for these basketball networks. So that's kind of how I would answer that question, is that I think it's just a blow to the community because so many Filipino Americans love playing basketball. I mean, I was disappointed and sad that I couldn't even go out into the playground and just shoot the rock. And so I think that's kind of how it's affected, people playing ball.
Thank you. Reno, as a coach, especially as a coach of girls playing basketball, how did it affect, how has the pandemic affected your work, and especially your players?
It's a long story that I could go deep into, but I'm just going to talk about the local angle here in Mountain House. We're the only city that had the rims up in the playground. So the neighboring cities would have, the kids would just drive over and hoop outdoors in Mountain House all the way into the night basketball, even when it got hot. They didn't take the hoops down. So that was huge for our kids. My son would run down there and play hoop, and he would hoop down there. Then as a high school, I'm the varsity coach for girls at Mountain House High School since the school opened in 14-15. And I did everything I could to hold workouts within the restrictions that I had to work within. I would mask it up, double layer mask, and I had my virtual computer up for those who could join us virtually. So I would have my computer up in the gym on the ball cage, and having the computer go around with the ball cage as I instructed the kids in the gym. We had to go into cohorts, so we couldn't have more than a certain amount of kids in one part of the gym and another certain amount. We had to keep them within the same cohort. So that was definitely different. But what I just tried to have the gym open as much as I could for the kids, because basketball is such that game that brings people together regardless of your background. It's a multicultural sport. It's a global sport. I happen to coach a lot of Filipinas at the high school level since the school opened, and it's always been a source of community for the Filipino community, and it's continues to be that way in Mountain House. My travel ball club, which is like over 10 teams throughout Northern California, we're the only one with a gym open because someone knew an AD at a school, And it wasn't through me, it was through another coach. So we had like way too many kids in there. So I had to limit the amount of kids, to keep it within reason. And kids were just looking for a place to play because all the surrounding cities had the hoops down, just like in Vegas. And viewership was absolutely. I was watching basketball on the TV all the time just to stay connected to what was going on. So prior to the pandemic, we didn't have to deal with that. Now after the pandemic, on the backside of it, and we're still in the middle of it, but since things have opened up, tournaments have started across California, and it's people are trying to get back to normal, even though we're not there yet, in my opinion. But definitely, it's changed how people look at basketball. As we need it. Every sport kids need to play. They want it. They want to play it. So it's really affected my world significantly.
And I'll pose it just a little bit differently to Rafe, and put it a little bit more globally in terms of, yes, if basketball, and we know basketball is very important to Filipinos around the world, as a gathering event, as a place for social interaction. So when the hoops do come down, right, or when they go back up, what are you seeing, Rafe? What are you seeing? How has that affected Filipino basketball?
Well, I think I still follow Philippine basketball in Manila quite closely. The PBA game, the college game, which really hasn't come back since the beginning of the pandemic. And one thing that is sort of almost a cliche about what the pandemic has done across society is that it accelerated trends that were already happening by 10 years. And one way in which I think I've observed that occurring for, say, the PBA in Manila, in the Philippine Basketball Association, is that some of the issues that had been simmering around player free agency, which does not exist in the way that folks who follow NBA and American basketball understand. There's no such thing as free agency. PBA players are under a contract that they belong to the team that signs them until the end, until that team decides to release them. Even if at the end of your contract, your team still has control over your rights until they decide to let you go. And there have been, because of the conditions of the pandemic in the Philippines right now, and trying to get the spread of COVID under control, the PBA hasn't been able to have its normal schedules, and there are more and more players, either in the pro ranks or in the college ranks, trying to go overseas to play in Japan frequently now. 30 Ravenna, who was a huge college star, his brother Kiefer preceded him, was named the Phenom. One of their dad was a major PBA player as well. It was a big deal when they decided, first when 30 decided to play in Japan, and then Kiefer has not yet gotten there quite yet, but may get there eventually. In any case, these trends are there. It's forcing the PBA to adjust to a global basketball environment where more homegrown Filipino players may be looking to play abroad, whether it's elsewhere in Asia or in some cases, you look at Kai Soto playing, Australia is in Asia, but you think of it as more of a, it's in Oceania, but they play in FIBA Asia. It's not even how many levels do we want to get into? But Kai playing in Australia, because of the PBA not being able to have its normal schedule, you see more and more players looking for ways to continue their careers outside of the country, hopefully to their benefit, but also unfortunately that the PBA is the second oldest professional league in the world after the NBA, and one where players of Filipino heritage, whether they're born and raised in the Philippines or from, grown or happen to grow up in the United States or elsewhere in the diaspora, are able to have a very stable, strong presence, which I think some of the players going to Japan now may find is not as they're playing as imports now, not as locals, and the stakes are much higher, and it's easier to get sent home if you don't produce. So it's going to be an interesting new era, I think, ushered in by COVID there. And another question it has raised, I think, is around the time of the PBA draft, most recently, is reconsidering some of the league's rules around Filipino American and Phil-foreign players, where there is still a quota of 5 players per team who can be Phil-foreign by the Department of Foreign Affairs standards, and that is something that probably, eventually, I remember speaking to the rest in peace former PBA commissioner June Bernardino in, I don't know, 2005 or 2006, him saying he didn't think that the quota could last, and it has lasted until 2021, and eventually it seems like that those sort of rules are going to fall by the wayside as the PBA is pushed into a more global facing outlook. But still, there's a lot of resistance from the inside, because the PBA is a very strong institution in the country for almost 50 years now. It'll be 50 in 2025, so it's very soon.
Wow, it's almost as old as me.
And so anyway, I think on the more bright side here in the States, the way I think the pandemic has accelerated some trends is you see groups like Philam Nation Select, which is very active on Instagram, very active across the country. They are really pushing to organize the entire, yes, exactly, thank you, Rena. They're pushing to organize the entire, the entire nation, the entire sort of diaspora, and organizing coaching clinics, camps, and finding the best talent that is out there here in the United States to either help them further their careers at college, at the college level in the States, and eventually, with the intention of playing professional basketball in the Philippines or anywhere in the world.
Yeah, shout out to Philam Nation. My son just went to a camp in Sacramento. Coach Chris is a great guy, and he's doing so much for Philams, connecting that bridge to the Philippines. So I'm glad you brought them up.
Thank you. Yes, and actually, Constancio, can you do you have any thoughts around that? This tug of the energies around global, right? The global push. Filipinos already are a global presence everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's Filipinos, which is a wonderful thing. And what does this mean for basketball? What does this mean for sport? What does this mean for our culture? And how do we look at it in those cultural, socio-cultural ways?
So, what I want to kind of jump off the fact that you said that Filipinos are global, right? Like, we are everywhere. We are a global diasporic population, but we're global because the Philippines can't support its own citizens because of what the sociologist Robin Rodriguez says, the human labor for export. So if we think about basketball, basketball is still laboring. Sometimes we played not to get paid, but I think about Rafe's book in terms of him talking about Filipino Americans going back to the Philippines, right? Mike Cortez, I actually knew the guy. So when I read about Mike Cortez going to the Philippines to play, I'm like, I've met that guy, and I didn't think about, that he's going to the Philippines to play ball, but also to get paid, right? And so I think that we have to think about the diaspora, the Philippine diaspora. We're everywhere, but we're also laboring and we work. And so even though basketball is seen as play, it's still a part of labor. So labor and play can't be uh, untangled. And that goes back to US colonialism in the Philippines. Basketball was introduced by the Americans, right? Late 19th century, early 20th century. And I think about Manny Pacquiao. He's not the first. Like, there were boxers that went to Australia and the US to box in the early 20th century. And so I think about culture, right? This actually is building upon my research. So for example, I played in a basketball league in California, and I noticed that these Filipino Americans, second generation, third generation Filipino American men would rock these like really dope looking uniforms. And I was like, dude, where'd you get your uniforms? And they were like, I've got it made in the Philippines. And so I think that's a really interesting way for them to use the basketball space to maybe articulate, to express, or perform a certain kind of Filipino American masculinity in basketball, where they feel affirmed, right? Their ethnic identity as diasporic Filipino American men are affirmed because if we think about the longer histories of race and racism, Asian men have always been seen as emasculated. So the space then becomes a way for them to perform a certain kind of Filipino American masculinity and Asian American masculinity. But then what does COVID-19 do? They can't do that. They can't wear their uniforms in public spaces. They can wear their uniforms in everyday life, but they don't get the same kind of reaction, right? That they get in these Asian American or these Filipino American basketball leagues that I participated in. So
Wow, that is amazing. And of course, it does bring me, Siege, to you, with the gender lens, right? With your hard work that you do to bring more light to gender equity in the Philippines. And what do you see? Maybe even outside of the Philippines, or how Filipinos interact with we talked last night about players going to Japan, and now that is available to them, right? And the pulling and pushing factors that Constancio talked of. But how does that how do you see that playing out with women identified players in the Philippines?
Well, I think sakto yung sinasabi ni Rafe and yung sinasabi ni Constancio na it's labor, it's work. And for Filipino basketball players, historically, there hasn't been an opportunity to pursue basketball as a career after college. Even in the UAAP, you're not making the same kind of money that your male counterparts are making. So in the Philippines, it's not like the US NCAA where you can't get sponsorships. Here you can get sponsorships. Athletes endorse everything from post-paid plans to sportswear. They get free sneakers. The college basketball players here, the men, have free sneakers delivered to their houses every month. Whereas the girls who I know, they had to fight for a sponsorship for a sports bra. So the level of investment is so different. And after college, you have the boys going on to play in the PBA, build a house for their family, rags to riches stories. The girls go get a corporate job. But what's exciting now is that the door is opening. So in the same way that 30 Ravenna is in Japan, right? Jack Animam went to Taiwan. She took a master's degree so that she can play for a university in Taiwan. They won, champions, undefeated, perfect season, right? And then she goes to America, and now she's trying to see how far she can get with that training. And with Jack doing that, you know, the door opens for other girls. In the PBA, when people criticize Thirdy and Kiefer and this push towards Japan, some fans worry that, oh, maybe it's going to be a brain drain. Maybe this is going to hurt our professional leagues in the Philippines. But Rick and I have talked about this. We should be celebrating it, not least because, to build on what Constancio said about labor being labor, if you deny them the opportunities to play abroad, you're denying them a labor opportunity. You're denying them financial stability for their family. But particularly if we apply that to the case of women, when women have no labor opportunities after college, all the more we should be pushing for our Filipino basketball players to get opportunities and develop them to be ready for the global stage. Right now, we have a pro league in the Philippines, but it's a baby league. You know, it's nothing compared to what a country like Japan can offer, or America. My goodness, if we can have a woman in the WNBA who's born and raised in the Philippines, that would be a game changer. I
Well, you know what, with that, Siege, so sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to segue right to Reno on that. And we talked last night about the pipeline, right, for Filipino players and the availability or the presence now that we're seeing growing at the college level, and different opportunities here. So Reno, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Historically, I mean, I'm a girls basketball coach. I've coached a lot of Filipinas coming up in the youth travel ball league and through high school. And historically, they just stop either ninth, 10th grade, or they may play up to senior year, but they don't consider college ball. Well, that's changed. Think of Kayla Padilla, Penn State, the De Jesus and Duke. I mean, they're D1 players playing significant time. And I talk to Coach Chris from Film Nation all the time that there's a pipeline of a pathway for female Film players in the States. And that's where I think the opening is really is through women's basketball for Filipino basketball. If you want to put that label, Filipino basketball, there is, I think, opportunity there for women to play in the college ranks, which is a pathway to get a college education because you get first dibs on classes, right? So at the least, you get to play ball for another couple of years, then you get the classes you want. I just had a girl who got placed at Cal State Stanislaus, and that was one of the reasons they were able to get first dibs on classes. So the pathway, families are looking at basketball as a pathway for an education, more so than ever than before. Before it was, you're going to play ball up to end of your high school, then you're going to go to your traditional career. And that was just how it was. But that's changing. I don't think we're even at the cusp of that change. It's just starting, that mindset, the whole mindset. And when I coach these girls, I let them know that I want them to be able to have control over life by looking at their options for everything. Like they have to make their own choices and make sure it's their own choice. Don't let a man, especially, make the choice for them.
Even a Filipino man?
Well, I won't say especially, but I'm going to say, historically, we're very how we are in our community, and women, female ballers, that the game makes them have to come out and be voice. They have to voice their opinion. Even just I got ball. They got to yell that I got ball, right? They got to be vocal on the court. So those habits are learned through a game such as basketball. Hopefully it translates off the court. They get their own opinions and they start having their own destiny in their own hands. And to me, that's my job as a coach. I'm very blessed to coach women's female high school hoopers. I got into this position because no one else wanted the job. I was hired as the boys coach at the high school. And then they asked me, do you want to take the women's? Because nobody wants it. Nobody wants to coach the girls. And I was more than happy to do that. And I've been there ever since. And it's been a blessing to try to, from a male perspective, I'll never know what it's like to be female, but from a male perspective as a coach, to try to empower them within what I know is definitely a blessing for me. But there is families are looking at college as a pathway, and eventually we're going to hit the WNBA. I'm going to predict the next 5 years there'll be more than one in the WNBA.
All right. So Rito's saying 5 years. Who's got over and under?
At the most.
Anyone on over and under on that one?
Can I just add something too? I mean, I think to Reno's point, I did an interview, this is back when I was, doing dissertation research. And one of my participants, her pseudonym is Jenilyn. She's going to be in my book, and she talks about wanting to be in the NBA, not the WNBA. She wanted to be the first woman to make the NBA. And so I think that speaks to, the aspirations, the dreams, the passions and the persistence to, she didn't make it to the NBA, but like to think about how she wanted to be the first woman to make it to the NBA, like speaks to her drive and her motivation to do that. I mean, again, she didn't make it, but like I was struck by the fact that she was like, nah, not the WNBA. I want to make it to the NBA, which was really fascinating for me as a researcher.
Wow, that's great. That reminds me of, I have a picture of myself. Maybe I'll put it on the website too. I have a picture of myself with my homemade ESPN microphone because when I was in, I think, middle school, or definitely early high school, I wanted to be the first female anchor of ESPN. So I, Siege, believe me, there's, I am way past that point. But this is actually why I really enjoy and appreciate all the work that you all do that's related to this passion that we all share, right? Which is Filipino basketball. And really to really say that all of you in all your pathways of work are inspiring to Filipinos all over the world. And so our last question is going to be this. As you're talking to Filipinos who love basketball all over the world, and many of them already follow y'all, a lot of them are familiar with your work, because all of us are part of this community already, and we're already connected through Kapwa, right? So what would you say? What would you say to Filipinos all around the world who love basketball about how we are going to rise together in these coming times? So we're going to start, I'm going to go backwards. We're going to start with Rafe, and then Rafe, you could pass it.
Okay, great. Well, look, I think that this is a time, and it's been an upward trend, I think, you could look back, 10, 15 years even, of awareness throughout the world of the strength of basketball in Philippine culture and what it means, throughout the diaspora, as well as respect outside of the Filipino community for, just how good, Pinoy and Pinay basketball players are. And it's not a surprise here in the States. When I was a child, I had teammates who were Filipino, and I didn't even know where they were from. And now it feels like that is a much more rare occurrence for kids growing up today, and it's beginning to be something that people understand about the culture and also admire about it. And I think that's going to create more opportunities for players or across the world, whether they're growing up in Manila or Italy or Saudi or somewhere here in the States in Daly City. And I think, there you go. I think it's something where there are going to be those more opportunities to play college basketball, which lead to more opportunities to play professional basketball, whether it's back in the Philippines or somewhere else all over the world. And you just sort of see it growing incrementally year by year, in a way that I think if you are, for a young person growing up uh, you know, anywhere in the Philippine diaspora today, you have high hopes for your own basketball career. You really can push it to the max and go, be a trailblazer, do something that hasn't been done yet. And while there are people sort of knocking on the door of the NBA every year, it hasn't happened yet, but it probably will happen. For a Kai Soto or whoever comes after Kai. And and when that happens, it's going to inspire more people. And I think that it's something that we'll see continue to grow over the years.
Thank you. Constancio, you want to go next?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. So the question was, what message do you have for the audience?
Yes, please.
So oftentimes, like sports generally, or let's just say basketball in particular, people assume that it's a place of meritocracy, right? If you just work hard, you're going to make it. But as we've seen, especially what Siege has pointed out to, it's highly inequitable. There's sexism, there's racism, there's homophobia, there's transphobia. And so I think basketball as a sport, there are politics in leisure, in pleasure, in play, and labor in basketball sporting cultures. And while representation does matter, I was actually struck by our conversation on the inequities and the contradictions that sporting cultures reveal, right? The fact that Filipinos can actually, they don't have the same kind of resources that are allocated to them in the Philippines that the PBA does is highly troubling. And so in many ways, I'd like for us to think about how do we decolonize basketball sporting cultures? Because again, if it was introduced by the Americans as a way to discipline Filipinos, then we're still stuck in those longer legacies of colonialism. We need to challenge patriarchy. We need to challenge the fact that men are the only purveyors of sporting knowledge and athletic abilities. And I think that Reno's coaching is evident of that. And so while I love basketball, I also can't divorce myself from thinking about how does basketball reproduce inequities and contradictions. And so for many of us in the diaspora, like think about who can play, who's allowed to play, who's allowed to cheer or relegated to the sidelines, right? And who's allowed to be the purveyors of sports knowledge, of basketball knowledge. I have hope, for example, because of what Siege's work is doing and Reno's coaching, that there are cracks in these power inequities, but I still think that we have to continue to be critical of these sporting institutions like basketball.
I'm just going to say, I'm hoping everyone in the community can keep evolving with the game of basketball. Think of ways to make it better for the community through just social interaction with each other one-on-one. As you know, things can get quite competitive in our community. So on and off the court, and being more collaborative, I think, is key in order for us to evolve into a better place. I'm with Constancio about breaking down the patriarchy and reviewing ourselves, our own selves, and how to make ourselves better, because we need to have ourselves change in order to help others change. I'm hoping people will be willing to look themselves in the mirror and say, what do I need to do to improve myself? Specifically for me as a father of two young daughters, that's something that you have to think, has it historically been the right way to help them navigate through this world? And I'm happy to say I have two very opinionated daughters. So hoping that's a good thing. And I'm hoping the men in basketball, Filipino or whatnot, really work to evolve themselves, to make themselves a better person on and off the court. And lastly, in terms of personal projects, I have the film And One that, film is very unpredictable, so I won't say when it'll be released. We're going to shoot it later in the year in Northern California, and we're going through the casting right now in LA, and just very humbled that that film will be made, and I'm hoping good things will come of it, and I'll keep everyone up to date. And in terms of writing, I have my young adult novel. Doesn't have basketball in it, but has vampires in it. But if anyone's in Mountain House, please give me a call in the Bay Area. I'd love to get together with you face to face and talk about hoop, because I don't believe basketball is life. I do not believe in that, but through basketball as a vessel, we can all come together and collaborate and make our community better.
Thank you, Reno. Anyone else?
I mean, I feel like Reno said it all. I don't have anything to add, really. I just want to honor and acknowledge what he said, because I think it's also important to think about basketball as community and collaborative instead of individual and isolating. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to add.
All right, Siege or Rafe, anything, and then I'm gonna wrap it up with that general call to action to evolve, to keep evolving basketball, to be reflective about basketball as what it means in our lives. But Siege or Rafe, please.
For me, if we want to empower female athletes, you need to listen to female athletes. You can catch the Go Hard Girls podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. We have a 3-part documentary series about the winningest women's basketball team in Philippine history. They haven't lost since 2014. And we also have coverage on other Filipina athletes outside of that. So if you want to learn about the great work that our Filipina athletes are doing, not just in breaking records, but breaking barriers, please join us on the podcast. And just last night, I started a TikTok for Go Hard Girls, and we'll be posting about our Filipinas in the Olympics. So you can catch us there too. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share today. It can be very tiring to be a woman in this industry, but hearing everyone's stories today, it gives me hope that we're moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Siege.
And for me, I've listened to every episode of Go Hard Girls already, and I can say I honestly, very vigorously, encourage anyone who hasn't to go seek it out and kind of hear about these stories of all the women across sports. It's a basketball focus because there's so much emphasis on basketball, but you'll find a lot more that Siege and the people at Puma Podcast have worked on there. It's a really important series because certainly in my research on basketball in the Philippines, it was always a glaring, it felt like a glaring omission that I could, on one hand, feel like I'm studying and immersed in a culture and country where basketball means more to people than anywhere else in the world, and at the same time feel like it so clearly that half of the population, in terms of participation at least, playing basketball, women were not included on the same level. And so everything that Siege and the women of Perlas Filipinas and in the UAAP, National and Ateneo and throughout the leagues that they're doing to elevate the women's game in the Philippines is huge. And then on a personal level, I'm just grateful to be here. Obviously, I am not Filipino like everyone else here. I came to the country at 23 years old with a research grant, not knowing hardly anything about it, and it changed my life in a million ways. And it's not just it hasn't just been about professional gain for me. I still every time I can go back, we'll go visit. I have my inaanak in Manila, and and friends, and a community that means as much to me as any other community I've been a part of in my life. And it's an honor to be here today with all of you, and to continue being a part of, of this community, and hopefully helping to, to do anything I can to support, from I don't know, from now until forever.
Thank you, everyone. Well, this has been so good. Let me just do a little tag at the end, and then we'll come off. Thank you
Retrato
to
picture.
oh yeah, we can't forget to take a picture. So on behalf of the Pistahan 28, this is Carolyn Sadeko. Thank you so much to our panelists, Siege Tantenko, Reno Ursal, Constancio Arnaldo Jr., and Rafe Bartholomew. And let's go play basketball. Game na. All right. Okay, picture. Picture. Who's going to take it? Oh, am I going to take it? Okay, I'll take it. How do I take it on the Mac? Okay. What? Puede. Okay. Okay. Isa, dalawa. Smile. Okay. Who wants to back me up? Can anyone else back up on their computer? Take a picture.
I took a couple from my phone, but I'll take a screenshot too.
Okay, take a screenshot.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. What about Blasilda and Patricia? I feel like they should be in
Okay,
the picture also.
let's bring them back in. All right. Blasilda, Patricia. Okay, come on. Hold on.
I like your hair color, Reno.
Thank you. I had the hair and makeup people just work really hard today for me.
Okay. Oh, here, let me take this one, and then Constancio, can you do another one
Yeah.
after this? Okay.
Wait, somebody's got to bring a basketball. Like, does anybody have a basketball next to them? Like,
of course.
yeah, we gotta get some props, you know.
One moment.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna bring mine.
I'll get mine.
Okay. All right. We'll have, wait, hold on. I wanted to hold books too. Hold on.
Oh, is that a FIBA one? Damn, that one's nice.
Wow. Okay.
Still waiting for Reno.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, ready? 1. Oh shoot. 1.
Okay. Are you taking
2.
it, Constancio?
Yeah, 3.
Okay.
All right. I took a bunch.
Okay. Okay. All right. I really could like do this like every week. You know, I really could, like, I don't know. And I wanted to, with deep gratitude to y'all, because this is important, I think, in our community. Thank you for really bringing the fire, especially with the patriarchy, especially with really being honest about how Filipino basketball is showing up, right, all over the world. And that's we can do that and still love being Filipino all over the world. Those are not two mutually exclusive. And so I just wanted to say thank you to that. Blasilda,
Yes, ma'am.
you doing okay?
Yes, I took a lot of notes. I was just listening to,
Right.
and
You know what? Tell Expo Magazine we want our own we want our own like insert. How about that?
I'll say
Okay.
it with Professor Tony. Yeah.
Yes.
Get up with
Well,
him.
I'll tell them on Monday, or I'll
Yes.
make Patty tell them, because
Mhm.
sometimes they like to tell me no, because I do like to push the expectation stuff with it. But I think it's I try to really be out of love for Filipinos all over the world. And so Siege, I'm going to ask you for a job over there. Anything for old athletic directors in the
Yeah,
Philippines?
consultancy.
Yes, I'm already there. You can find me at Coaching Kapwa, trying to do that work on this side. I was telling Siege that gender equity sounds pretty good when you hear about it happening here, but Title IX is nowhere near its intended fruition, as we know, Constancio, right? And I'm still one of very few, or maybe two, brown people in a room, even of women. So that's still truth. So Patty, how you doing?
I'm sorry, the internet keeps going on and off because of the heavy rain.
Yes, but we want to make sure you're safe. Siege, Salamat, thank you. Everyone, Rafe, especially, Reno, especially, Constancio, especially, Blasilda, for your time tonight. Like I said, Patty or I will contact you about making sure we have all your information, all the information that you want us to promote on your behalf on the website. We'll be including you in, I think, the social media stuff started already. So we're using these 3 weeks or so to really push for that. One last thing, if I could, we're also going to launch, hopefully pretty soon, because Patty is making me do this really soon, but we want to have kind of like a roll call of Filipino ballers all over the world. So we want people to just do a selfie or a quick little video. I'm so and so in Mountain House, and I'm a Pinoy baller. You know, my son is doing this too. Then it took him forever to make a shot. I'm like, really? So anyway, so however way they want to trick that out, we're gonna do a call to action for everyone around basketball. And then we're thinking, and I'll be in contact with you, Reno, about the uniform contest. We might, I'm not sure yet if it's been approved, but I would like to do a uniform design contest, because Filipino basketball uniforms are the best in the world. So I'd like to do a uniform design contest to get our artists involved. And I think Rafe, you know Dave Carswell, right?
Mm-hmm. The
Artist.
photographer in Australia?
The photographer. Yeah, so he did he did some work around basketball hoops in the Philippines, and he presented it here at in San Francisco at one of the galleries as part of Asian American show, I think. So there's a real strong artist and basketball sociocultural connection for sure. So again, that could be another panel altogether, right? With so many things.
I just wanted to say it was just an honor to be sharing this platform with all of you. And Coach Sadeko, thanks for having me. I'm happy.
Thank you all.
I'm just very, very feel very blessed to just share this stage with you all.
And if any of you are on Vegas, hit me up. I'd love to host you or play some.
Wow.
All right.
Go one-on-one.
I'd probably lose, but you know.
Please let me know. I will feed all of you.
All right, Siege. Okay, well, I have that recorded. I have evidence.
Oh,
I'm going to show that record. See, you said you would feed me.
If I have my way, I'm going to have Raymond Townsend pay for me to get there. Siege and Patty, I'm going to be sleeping on your sofas. Then we'll be.
Try watermelon sinigang.
Oh,
ooh.
I haven't eaten
What?
dinner yet. I haven't eaten dinner yet. Don't start talking about food.
wow! What watermelon sinigang? That just sounds like I should be eating that right now.
I know.
Oh my
Sour
gosh!
at the same time, and then it's beef short rib inside.
Oh.
It's one of it's a dish at this popular restaurant here. It's
Mm.
really
Oh,
Wow.
We have to go there.
wow!
pati swings.
Oh, but these wings,
So
Lasilda, we got to tell the culinary pavilion
Yes.
about this. So Pistahan has a culinary pavilion.
So
We
you
got to
see-
drop this at
You're
our next
saying
meeting.
watermelon.
Got to write
Yeah.
that down. Write that down.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I have it.
Okay. So I would love to so look out for our our feedback form or our info form for all of you, and then that'll also have all the information about when it'll be broadcast and everything. And then we will also send you branding information so you could promote it on your socials.
Sure.
All that kind of good stuff. It's a beautiful design for this year's poster. I don't care what Al says. I'm going to send T-shirts to the Philippines, so we'll be asking for your addresses or wherever you want us to send the Pistahan T-shirt. And I think that's it. Patty, am I missing anything? See, Patty is communications, so she has to
No.
make sure.
That's it. You got it.
Okay, Patty's my boss. Patty's gonna direct message me later.
And
With anything.
Carolyn, with all the material for anything of this, with the call to action to get Pinoy ballers and all that stuff.
Mhm.
If you could send me that, because I'm gonna let Coach Chris know with Philam Nation, because they are really at the forefront of American stateside and Philippine side.
Perfect. Yeah,
Ballers. So
I'm hoping to have that officially approved. They're thinking about ways to get permissions or to so if people can record and just post on their socials, how we can get it and put it on and promote it that way with permissions. So once they figure that out, we'll send that out soon. So I'm hoping by Monday or Tuesday.
sounds good.
With that. Yeah, and we'll keep you all up to date.
I was gonna ask Rafe, how long are you gonna be in Detroit?
Oh, I live here and I've been here almost 2 years now. So,
Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Michigan. So
I did. Yeah, I saw it. You
Yeah.
mentioned. I saw it in your Twitter also. Wow.
up,
Now,
up here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, up here. Yeah.
Where?
We still have the family house there. So there's this beautiful house no one lives in, because my parents live in the South now.
Wow.
And
Was that like almost in like Petoskey or like
Roger City?
Roger City? Okay.
Yeah, it's near Alpena.
Mm.
Yeah. So we're talking Michigander talk, but
Man,
it's
I get the I hear from like Eric Mank in Manila telling me about his like, oh, you got to go here, go up there. Oh, when you go to the zoo, you have to, it's all
Detroit,
Yeah.
huh, Ray? All right. I
awesome,
hear that.
awesome.
I'm going to keep promoting this for you, Constancio, because I'm going to tell you how I met Constancio, is because I had this at a table that I was working at. That was the house of Constancio's cousin. And so Drew's your cousin, right? So Drew's spouse, Lisa, is like, hey, that's Drew's cousin. I'm like, what? So it's been with me for a while. And I've even, I never want to call it like stalking, but I mean it in the very nicest, like not violent way. But you know,
Don't accidentally like something on their Insta and then they'll know.
right, exactly. Like, but you know, I started following Stan, and then Stan, who's also the co-editor here. You know, Constancio, he was the only one who signed up for my hashtag all girl dads. He was the only one who signed up for that workshop. So I had to call him, I had to message him and say, oh, please don't show up, because it'll just be you and I talking. Even though I would have enjoyed that. But yeah, so he's been supportive in my work as well. So thank you. Siege, have a good weekend. The rest of you have a good weekend as well. I'm always here for you if you need anything. I don't know what I
Same
can.
here.
Yeah.
Same here for all of you.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone.
I feel like I
Absolutely.
met some new friends, so I'm really grateful to share this space
Absolutely.
with you. And yeah, this was really fun. And thank you again, Patricia,
Yeah.
Coach Deco, Carolyn, and Blasilda for getting this organized. And I know that this was also labor, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
wonderful. Pistahan
Salamat.
is a all volunteer
Labor of love.
labor of love. And yeah, if people working for free and all these spreadsheets it's definitely labor. But again, that is why I want to be Filipino. Being Filipino every day, this is the best way to do it for me. So thank you all so much. Have a good
Carolyn,
night.
say hi to Tony for me.
Oh, I will.
All right.
It's her birthday tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
Hey, guess who just put up some basketball videos?
Did
Yeah.
she?
Tony
Did she?
Lynn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got
She
you.
was doing basketball. So Tony Lynn is my youngest sibling who also loves basketball, blew out her Achilles playing basketball. She thought she could play. Anyway, but yeah, she's doing some youth theater classes for United Players, and they just did a whole basketball lesson.
Oh, nice.
It's just cool.
Nice.
So
Nice.
good stuff.
Send her my regards.
I will. Okay.
All right.
Mwah.
Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.
Sige.
Bye.
All
Ingat,
right.
All right.
Ingat.
Have a great night and have a good day,
Ingat kayo,
Siege, over there.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.
Huh?